What's going on, guys? It's another edition of Bucs Latest here on the Fan Arch Network. I'm your host, Peter Blake, your Rolex reporter. What time is it? It's my time. And for Bucs Nation, it is your time. Remember, like and subscribe to the channel. Lots of great shows coming. Now, let's get into it here. Chris Godwin rumors are running rampant here, especially from Bleacher Report, as Alex Ballentine puts Godwin in the top of his list of potential trade targets for the Cleveland Browns. As he says, Chris Godwin will be an interesting fit now that Todd Monken is coming in as a head coach. He was a big part of Godwin's early development during his time in Tampa, and the Bucs might be willing to deal him after back-to-back years of struggling with injuries. Also, Bleacher Report lists him as one of the top trade targets, along with Zion McCollum and Yaya Diaby, of course, says the Bucs, and it lists here over the cap at $16.8 million. So they're under at $16.8 million, and of course need to free up some money. Now, Godwin, of course, has struggled with injuries the last couple years. The Bucs, if they did trade him, could possibly receive a third-round pick, maybe more, because we know that when Godwin is healthy, which has been a big if, that he not only could be one of the top young receivers in the league at 29 years old, but he's a third down maker, especially for this offense. And this is why I don't necessarily buy it. I still believe that the Bucs, Zach Robinson, want to keep a guy like Chris Godwin in the fold in the first place. Of course, it would free up about $5.8 million. You would have to look at that with the impending free agency of Mike Evans. Who do they favor more? Godwin, Evans? To me, I just want to see both of them on the field together because we know how dynamic this offense can be when Chris Godwin is healthy, when Mike Evans is healthy. So I'm not necessarily sure about this. Once again, speculation season is in full bloom when it comes to Bucs wide receivers. And of course, people will point to, well, if you trade Chris Godwin, you open up money. And not only that, you open up an opportunity for an Emeka Egbuka, for Tez Johnson, and of course, for a Jalen McMillan. So we'll see how this all works out and plays out in Bucs Nation. Now, let's move on here. A guy that could be in a Bucs uniform when it comes to free agency, according to Greg Auman of Fox Sports, would be Mr. Nakobe Dean, the former linebacker, now could be a free agent from the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, they had high hopes for him as he fell to them in the third round of the 2022 draft. But through 4 seasons, his career has been largely defined by injuries, as Dean has missed 21 games over the past 3 years. The only season which he suited up for all 17 games came when he was playing as a rookie. 2024, of course, being his best year when Philadelphia won the Super Bowl. He started all 15 games. He played in, racked up 128 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 interception, 4 passes deflected, and 2 forced fumbles. Of course, he lost those snaps to first-round pick Jahad Campbell and others. Now, Greg Auman says that he could see the Bucs signing him because he's going to be $8 million. That's the projected free agency contract. He says Dean 25 has been limited by injuries throughout the 4 seasons in Philadelphia. The Eagles used a first-round pick in Jahad Campbell last year, so maybe they're already decided on Dean's future. How much can Dean get as a free agent? That's a wide range of projections, but he's likely in the $8 million a year vicinity. His prediction is that he signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, of course, there is a need there with not knowing if Levante David is coming back, and even then, once again, an upgrade over Savasier Dennis, which once again, this position is definitely one of the biggest needs of this team. You need a guy that not only is younger, can make tackles. I'm not sure if Dean is that guy. For $8 million, I guess you could take a flyer on him. He does have potential. He has made plays in the past, but with the injury situation, I'm not so sure the Bucs would do that. Of course, again, $8 million for a young linebacker. Is he an upgrade? Is he going to be competition for Savasier Dennis? We'll see, but it certainly is interesting. Once again, another linebacker, as we talked about on this show, and a Devin Lloyd from the Jacksonville Jaguars predicted to go to Tampa Bay. Here is another linebacker in free agency. So it'll be interesting when the legal tampering period starts on where and when some of these free agents are talked to by the Bucs and their organization. Now let's move on here to another linebacker that has been projected to go to the Bucs, because once again, is this the big time need here? Let me go back. Let me just backtrack a little bit from the first two issues here. Chris Godwin, how concerned are you, Bucs Nation, that he would get traded? Would you trade Chris Godwin and move on from the salary, move on from a wide receiver when you have, once again, a plethora of wide receivers in that room? And then also possibly to get back Mike Evans. Bucs Nation, Bucs fans, would you move on from him? And then on top of that, Nakobe Dean, do you want him in free agency? Would you be interested in him at $8 million in free agency? Are you screaming at the top of the rooftops? Are you banging the table for Jason Light and crew to go and sign Dean? Go ahead, put the comments down there in the comment box. And remember, like and subscribe to Bucs Latest on the Fan Arch Network. Now, Fox Sports' Joe Klatt sees the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finding the next Lavonte David in the 2026 NFL Draft, and that would be Ohio State Buckeye linebacker Sonny Styles, who could be available at number 15th in April. He says Lavonte David is 36, a free agent, so the Buccaneers are probably looking at replacing this offseason or sometime soon. Once again, Lavonte David, that's going to be the big-time key. Whether he comes back or not, in my opinion, you still have to fill this position. But he says Styles is the best inside linebacker in the draft, showing he can do it all at Ohio State this past season. He actually started his college career at safety, but they moved him to linebacker because of his massive 6'5" frame. He's also got 3 years of experience starting at Ohio State, and he's just 21 years old. Of course, we heard from David early on in this campaign a couple weeks ago as he was on Up and Adams, the podcast, saying it's ultimately in his court here if he wants to come back. And it certainly seems like the last couple comments that he certainly has something left to prove coming off an injury. Even if Lavonte David comes back, if you have an opportunity, and remember, there's all kinds of fluidity, because if Styles runs a low 40 at the combine, then maybe he drops. If he runs a high 40, if he goes out in the combine and absolutely produces and knocks it out of the box, then he's going to be a top 5, top 10 pick with a 6'5" guy who started at Ohio State. And we know that Jason Light loves guys from those programs that are leaders. This is the perfect Buccaneer candidate, good character guy. You wonder if he asked Emeka Egbuka, who he drafted last year, about this kid. And then on top of it, you throw it out there. He used to be a safety. Todd Bowles loves secondary players, right? So he's got to be smart. He's got to be able to come in and make the calls right away. I'm just not sure if he could learn Todd Bowles' defense, but this definitely would be a prospect that you would take a look at. Now, Mel Kiper of ESPN has this to say about Styles. He says, you can tell Styles is a former safety. His outstanding speed, his burst allows him to spy the quarterback. Bucs need that because, again, as we go through it, the middle of the field was like the Atlantic Ocean the last couple years as linebackers couldn't cover, and then on top of it, could not tackle. The running game, the run defense for this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team has gone down, but especially in coverage, this is where you look at Styles being in an advantage for this Bucs team if he's there at number 15. Kiper goes on to say, watch for him to dominate at the combine and a pre-draft testing. Styles is also a dependable tackler, closes in a flash. He really took the next step this season, even as an adapted new system under defensive coordinator Matt Patricia. So there you go, a guy that's safety, has the instincts, can tackle, and then also learned a new system, which he's going to have to do in the National Football League for Todd Bowles and that defense. So if he does have a great combine, do the Bucs trade up? If you don't make a trade for Max Crosby, you keep your picks. You go the other option with Trey Hendrickson. All this stuff, once again, is fluid. What do you think, Bucs Nation, Bucs fans? Sonny Styles at number 15, and if you have to trade up for him, are you willing to do that? Is that one of the most important positions there for this Bucs team in 2026 would be the linebacking position. Let's move on to our final story of the day, and that would be Odafe Oweh. Do you know who he is? Well, you do some research here, Bucs fans, and he's a free agent out there. Had 7.5 sack season, 27 years old, under the radar edge rusher from the Chargers. Now, would the Bucs be interested in him? This would be a cheaper option, although you go to the over the cap. His projection right now is 4 years and $77 million. So that'd be $19 million a year. Are you willing to pay that? He could be a free agent for the Chargers. Of course, played well after getting traded by the Baltimore Ravens. Is this somebody that the Bucs should be interested in, Bucs Nation? You look at it as a lot of scouts or a lot of analysts, if you will, talk about him with the 7.5 sack season, has the ability to build on that, has the athletic tools, with some people saying raw athletic tools, rapid development in recent seasons, and could also pair him up to another younger option. 7.5 sacks, nothing to write home about, but in the short time with the Chargers, it's something to take a look at, because if you don't get Max Crosby and you strike out on Trey Hendrickson, then you're going to have to go after players like this that are under the radar, much in the same vein as, I don't know, Shaq Barrett. You get him for a one-year deal. Nobody knows anything about him. And then he absolutely blows up and you sign him to an extension. So the projection is out there, $19 million. This is another candidate for Jason Light and company to see if he would be in pewter and red during when free agency starts. So we'll see how that all plays out. We're going to wrap it up right there. Thank you very much for tuning in to Bucs Latest on the Fan Arch Network. What do you think, guys, with all that? Again, like and subscribe. Put the comments in there. I'm your host, Peter Blake, your Rolex reporter. What time is it? It's my time. And, of course, for Bucs Nation and Go Bucs fans, it's your time. We'll see you next time on Bucs Latest on the Fan Arch Network. As we always say, Go Bucs.